up, you guys? Welcome back to another video here. So this one is going to be a little different. I'm going to step away from doing mods and I'm going to do a little bit of maintenance for my F30 335i with the N55. So before I get into what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be changing the ignition coils and the spark plugs. But before I get into how I'm going to do that, I just want to provide a little bit of context on the situation I'm in with my F30 N55. If you don't really care about that, I'm going to go ahead and just put a timestamp so you guys can skip to when I'm actually just starting to install everything, if that's only what you care about. But if you want to listen and are interested in hearing why exactly I'm doing this, feel free to stay. So yeah, so for those of you who stayed, here's my situation. So about a month ago, I took the car to the dyno to see what kind of power it's putting out at full bolt-on with boot mode stage 2 91 with a high flow catted downpipe. And I got to 353 wheel horsepower and 373 wheel torque. But one thing that concerned me was the graph that came with the dyno. When I posted the video of the graph and taking my car to the dyno, when I did all that, quite a few of you pointed out that the graph looked pretty bad because there were a lot of dips. I didn't really know what any of that was initially because it was my first time taking the car to a dyno and reading a graph and doing all this. But I've done some research and kind of got a pretty general understanding of all of that now. So since when you take your car to a dyno, the graph is supposed to be pretty smooth. It's not supposed to have a bunch of dips up and down. The curve was not very smooth on mine. So some of you were saying that I could have a boost leak. I need to data log and check maybe the engine's pulling timing and all that. Or maybe I was running the wrong map. Maybe it was the ignition coils and spark plugs, since they've never been changed, which is why I'm doing it in this video actually. So I did end up doing some data logging, and I will have a video on that actually of me trying to data log for my first time, just in case any of you guys are interested in that. I will have a video. But I did do that, and I did switch the map to stage 2 91 ACN, which is the map geared for California gas, since apparently it is low quality 91 here compared to other places. But originally when I took the car to the dyno, I was running just the regular stage 2 91 map, assuming that I had good 91 gas here. But yeah, since then I did switch it. So right now the car is on stage 291 on the ACN map for California gas. So I did that, assuming that that could possibly fix why I was doing that. I also felt like it was the ignition coils and spark plugs because I didn't change those, and I don't think they've ever been changed, and I'm pretty sure I'm still running just the regular stock OEM spark plugs that come from factory. So that is why I'm going to be replacing the spark plugs and ignition coils in this video. So that ends my little context discussion there. But let's get into what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to be changing the spark plugs and ignition coils, like I said. So the spark plugs I'm going to be putting in the car are the NGK laser iridium one-step colder spark plugs. From what I've seen, these are the most common spark plugs to put in your engine if you are running a tuned N55, N54. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and I'm also going to gap these because they are supposed to be gapped at a certain measurement, and I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to do that in a second here. In addition, I'm also going to be replacing the ignition coils, like I said. The ignition coils that I'm going to be putting in here, as you can see, are not the Delphi ignition coils that usually come on the N55s from the F30 generation. I'm going to be putting in some ELDOR ignition coils, which for those of you who may not know, is the company that makes the ignition coils that are in the newest BMWs now. So like the B58, the M340i, and all the new BMWs, they switched to this company to make ignition coils. So from what I was seeing, you could actually use these on the N55 and N54. I got these specific ones from eBay, and these ones were for BMWs like mine with the Delphi ignition coils, which is what mine has. There was another listing, I think, a separate one, where it was just a regular ELDOR ignition coil for, I believe, the N54 and the B58. And from what I was hearing, these ones are the best type of ignition coil, since over the years they've, done trial and error to see what works, what doesn't work, what runs best. And from what I was seeing so far, these are excellent. So I'm gonna go ahead and try these out. Hopefully they run well with the engine. I'm not 100% sure how it's gonna turn out, but hopefully everything goes well. I will have this set of ignition coils that I have here, these exact ones, and these spark plugs linked down in the description if you do want to check these out. Alright, so finally now we can get into getting ready to install these. Before I'm going to install everything, like I said, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to gap these. Because these ones are gapped to 0.032 right now, but we need to gap them to 0.022, which is the recommended gap measurement for the N55 according to boot mode and a bunch of other people. So I'm going to go ahead and gap them to that measurement. So to gap them, you'll need this little measuring tool. I'm not sure what it's called, but you'll need this to measure the space in between to, you know, widen the gap or narrow the gap. But since we're making it smaller, we're going to be narrowing the gap. And then I'm going to be using this little tool here. I'm also not sure what it's called, but this will help me close the gap or open the gap if I do it too much. I will try to find the name of these and then link them in the description just in case you need them. I happen to have these since my grandfather worked on cars a lot as when he was younger, and he has a bunch of tools, like all sorts of tools, and he has these. But I'll try to find some new ones for you guys if you need some yourself and you're doing this. So here I have one of these spark plugs, and go ahead and take this little tool here, and if you look, it shows you the sizes. So we need 0.022, which is right here, and if you put it in between the little spark there, you can see there's a little bit of wiggle room. It easily goes in, which suggests that it is too wide. So we're gonna need to narrow this top part down. We're gonna need to bend it downward, and that's where this tool comes in. To bend it down, you just simply put it like this, like here, just like that, and then you just simply bend. Be careful, like don't use too much force, but you just slowly bend it closer to the tip, like that. Once you think you've bent it enough, you can go ahead and take it out and then use the measurement tool again to see if it's a little bit harder for it to slide in between. Yeah, see, like now it's a little bit tighter. And if you want to check and you're not sure, you can go ahead and use the other sizes. So I have 0.023 here and see if that's too big or too small. It's a little bit bigger. Now I have 0.024 here. You can see it's, I know this like thing is kind of dirty. I mean, this is old. My grandfather's had this for a very long time, but you can still use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and try 0.024 and see if that's too big. Yeah, see, now it's not even going in. So that's how we know it's pretty close to 0.022, 0.023. I'd say if it takes force to get it in between, then you're about at where you need to be. So this one should be good. Also, if by any chance you gap it too small, you can just simply kind of do the same thing. Just put it like more down on the side here and just push back on the little hook there, and it'll go upward. So I'm gonna go ahead and gap 3 more of these. I actually got 2 extra ones because they only sell them in 4s for some reason. But it's cool because I have 2 extra ones now just in case one maybe goes bad. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just gap the rest of these real quick. So now I have 6 of the spark plugs gapped to 0.022 or 0.023, around that area. So now I can begin the replacement of taking out the old ones and putting these new ignition coils and spark plugs in. here we have our ignition coils right here. As you can see, the first 4 are really easy to get out. It's just, of course, the last 2 over there. The 5th one is covered by the O2 sensor little connection here. And then the 6th one all the way in the back is covered by all of this up here. So I'm probably just going to remove this plastic piece. I'm gonna see if I could just remove the, actually no, I think I'm gonna have to remove all of this. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove these 2 plastic pieces on either side. And then I'm probably gonna have to remove the 2 strut bars on this side and on that side over there. And then all this rubber cushioning stuff. So to remove this piece and the one on that side, they're just held in place by these little 8mm like screws that you just turn to turn counterclockwise. You can just use a little 8mm socket to do it, and it'll turn. And then that'll just come out like that. So to get the strut braces off, it's held on by 2 of these E18 Torx bolts. So you'll need a E18 Torx socket. This is what I'm going to be using to remove them. So there's one right here, and then one underneath here, and then the same for the other side. One underneath here, and then one on the, like where the suspension is. So to get the one over here off, you just have to remove the cover with a little flathead screwdriver. That. Now what's left is just to remove this plastic piece back here. It's held on by 6 of these 8mm bolts right here. So now we have plenty of room with all this stuff off to get the 6th ignition coil there. What's left is just this little bracket holding the O2 sensor connections together. It's just held on by a T30, I believe, and that's it, and this will just come right off. Go ahead and remove the connections. Alright, so now all of the ignition coils are exposed and are accessible. So I'm going to go ahead and begin removing all of the old ignition coils. To remove them, you just simply pull up on this little clip here, like that. Disconnect all the connections. all of the ignition coils are removed, and we can see inside all of the spark plugs. So to remove these spark plugs, I have this cool little tool here that I got from Amazon. It's basically an extension with a wobble little joint here, since the spark plugs are in there at an angle, so this will allow me to grab onto it. And it is the correct size for the spark plug. If you would like to get yourself this tool, I'll link it down in the description of the video. So here are the old spark plugs along with the new ones that are going in. As you can see, they are Bosch spark plugs, which I believe are the OEM spark plug from factory. So we are upgrading to these NGK, and hopefully the car will run a bit better with these. So now all of these spark plugs are in. They are just hand tightened. I'm gonna go ahead and use my torque wrench here to torque them down to 23 Newton meters. So all of these spark plugs are now torqued down to 23 Newton meters or 17 foot-pounds. I'm gonna go ahead and install the new ignition coils. So now both the spark plugs are in and the ignition coil, they're both in now. One thing I would like to note when you're putting the ignition coil in, just make sure you push down with quite a bit of force to make sure it seats all the way down, because when you put it in, it'll stop. But just make sure you keep pushing down until like it moves down to like a little bit more. And then you should be able to clip the connection together here. Alright, so that completes the replacement. Before I put all this stuff on, all that stuff in the back there, I'm gonna go ahead and start the car to see if it runs better or worse or the same, just to make sure it runs in general. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start the car. Alright, so as you guys saw, and you guys can see right now, it is running smoothly. So no issues with the ignition. I'd like to believe that it's running a little bit smoother now with brand new spark plugs and ignition coils. So yeah, this is awesome. So everything runs smoothly. I'm gonna go ahead and put all of the stuff back on the car, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take it for a drive to see how it performs and to see if there's any difference. Alright guys, so everything is back together on the F30. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take this thing for a drive to see if there's any sort of difference in performance or just the smoothness of how the engine runs, literally anything, just to see if there's any sort of difference now that the spark plugs and ignition coils are in. Alright, I'd have to say this thing feels a lot better. Like, definitely. Feels a lot smoother. The power delivery is just super smooth. Before I felt like there was kind of some hiccups every so often. Not that frequently, but like I'd noticed it here and there. That would kind of bother me. But not anymore. This thing feels so awesome, so fun to drive. I definitely think these spark plugs and ignition coils definitely made a difference. Alright, so I am back here in my driveway and I have the F30 right here. I actually switched it with the E90 because I'm going to be taking my E90 finally, since I've been driving the F30 so much. I was doing stuff for the E90 so I couldn't really drive it, but now everything is back together, so I'll be driving the E90 while the F30 takes a break here. I actually just reached 70,000 miles on this car. I bought it when it had like 61, so I've already put 9,000 miles on it. It's almost been a year though since I bought it, so it's not a lot for a year. But anyway, as I mentioned during the drive, the car feels a lot smoother, a lot better, and just so much more fun. I think the ignition coils and the spark plugs definitely made a difference. I believe just because the other ones were just the original ones, they'd never been changed, and because the car's tuned, they just weren't really going well with the tune and the miles that are already on it. But with these brand new spark plugs and coils, the car is running excellent. I am super happy with how this car is running now. I really want to know if it made those dips go away in the power curve, but I won't know that until I take it on the dyno again. I don't know when that'll be. Speaking of which here, I actually am hoping to dyno the E90 on that same dyno I did the F30 on, because they do have an all-wheel drive dyno, which since the car is all-wheel drive, I need an all-wheel drive dyno. So hopefully I'll get a chance to do that, and I'll get you guys some power numbers with the few performance mods that I have on the E90. So anyway, the car is running excellent, like I said, with these new ignition coils and spark plugs. I will link down the exact ignition coils, the ELDOR coils, and where I got them from eBay. I'll also link down the NGK spark plugs. I got those from Amazon. If you guys want to check those out, I'll also link down a couple of the tools you guys saw me use in the video. Some of those tools are pretty helpful, so you might want to check those out. I honestly probably should have changed the spark plugs and ignition coils before I went full bolt-on and put all the performance mods in the tune. So if you haven't done that and you're planning to, and you haven't changed out your spark plugs or ignition coils, so I suggest you do change them, or at least look into it before you do all that, unlike I did. Well, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. As always, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop those down below the video. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you are new here for more content like this. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video.